Dude, Chris, how are you doing today, brother?
I am great. It is a great day to be alive.
You know, that is a wonderful statement that you say because all of this is always perceptive. It's always perception and subjective. So we're going to talk about so much today, but I want to hear from you right now. When it comes to leadership at the CEO level, what is on your mind right now?
Sales and alignment of the team.
Sales and alignment of team, two things that are super easy to deal with. Great. This will be a fast and simple episode. Let's let's plan on jumping into this. Got a strong team on paper, but execution still feels slower and harder than it should be? Welcome to the Executive Peel. We've interviewed over 240 executive leaders from organizations such as Disney, Coca-Cola, Drive Time, the CIA, and many more major national and international brands. Now we focus on CEOs and senior executives of multi-location, operation-heavy companies, digging into what's working, what's still hard, and how they're growing themselves and their leaders so their business can grow fast without them in every decision. I'm your host, Alex D. Tremble, CEO of GPS Leadership Solutions, where we run a 14-day executive leadership diagnostic for CEOs who know they have a good team, but also know they're leaving profit on the table because the organization is not as productive or efficient as it should be. We help them find their leadership bottlenecks in 14 days and build a 90-day plan to fix them. Now, if you're looking for some real advice from some real-world tested operators, this is the place for you. Let's meet our next guest. Chris, we're going to get into sales and how easy that is. Just people just walk in the door and just buy stuff. It's like Walmart. And alignment. Again, people just align. It's super weird how if you just, let things be, things just work out. But first, I'd love to allow our audience to know a little more about you, how you got to where you are right now as, again, CEO of Aircon, and what do you all do, the value you provide as a company?
Yeah, so well, I appreciate that. That's a lot of questions at once for my small brain. So Chris Condon, obviously founder, CEO of Aircon. But who I am, I'm a farm boy from Wisconsin that grew up in Seattle with the two great parents that moved around a lot, right? So and I share that because I think there's relevance there in terms of how people communicate and how we internally at Aircon we call it lenses, right? So how you view problems through a different lens and different expertise and experiences. Oh, and I forgot to talk about what we do from Aircon. Sorry.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I want to. Yeah, so we build systems that help freight forwarders know what they're committing to at the time of quote. And the real challenge with that is, and because a lot of people will say, hey, well, we can do that, right? But a lot of times people look at things through a linear lens, right? So quote, book, ship. And we look at that as your first promise to your customer or first commitment to your customer is the quote. And the first book is the commitment to them, to you. And then the shipment execution side of it really validates those first two decisions that were made.
So again, you and I have already spoken before, and I love the terminology that you use, which is the promise, right? And that is, it's actually what we are doing always as businesses is we're making a promise to our customer, or the lead or person could be our customer, that whatever they purchase through us, we're actually going to deliver on. I know this seems like a small question, but I'd love to hear why and what drove you to even utilizing that terminology of the promise versus like, this is a product. This is what we sell.
Yeah, where the word came from, or where we started using it more often is I was in a speaker at a GLA conference in Shenzhen, and it just came out, right? Trying to use a word that described what we were actually doing and making a differentiation of quote versus a commitment versus a promise, which really just builds trust, right? Because GLA use that word a lot, so it just kind of came out naturally for me, or to me, whatever word you want to say there. But the interesting part of that is I've been in the business a long time, right? I think it's been 30 years that I've been in the business, and from a forklift driver all the way through owning my own freight forwarding business, everybody, including myself, kind of like, well, just quote it, right? Like you inherently know who to go to. You inherently, in people's heads, like you're making judgment calls instantly, all the time, and we don't even realize it, right? Until it's obvious that what you are quoting isn't what the customer wants. And that was kind of the I want to say the aha moment for me in terms of calling it a promise versus a commitment, because a quote is not just a quote; it's just the output.
Yeah, that's actually it's super interesting, because I also feel like the promise is even more clear than, like, it sounds like, oh, they're quoting me to do X, Y, and Z, versus the promise is this is what's going to the outcome. People understand, I think, that very clearly, like, oh, they're promising me something, but do I even want that? Let's talk about this more. I feel like that allows for additional clarity. Have you found that as well?
1,000%. Yeah. And that as we transitioned away from tech enabled wholesaler into a strictly a tech system or a tech provider, that separation of those two workflows allowed us to create language around that, right? That provided a tremendous amount of clarity internally and externally on our messaging. And it's wild to me. Like, once that unlock of, hey, we're talking the same language now, right? When you say X, Y, and Z, you hear X, Y, and Z. And that's why that alignment is so important internally, because people listen. What I've come to realize, and again, I'm still learning this stuff, right? Like this, I learn stuff every day, right? It's wild to me. But as you communicate, as your team grows, or as the team grows, and they have their different experiences and their different, again, we call them lenses, right? So a financial lens, or an operator lens, or a tech lens, they look at problems, or they interpret words differently. And so making that transition to be aligned has been wild to me. Like, it's just the speed of work, and the speed of the outputs of each one of everybody's areas of responsibility accelerated, right? And so I'm excited, I'm and whatnot, but it's, again, the language matters.
It's funny. I was just talking to someone recently, and I was trying to make that point, and they were like, it's just words. Let's just keep going. You're being nitpicky. I'm like, oh, no. It really does matter. Again, the example I love to use is that, my wife and I, we were having a disagreement about, how to move forward in a particular area. And she's like, I'm just being considerate. I'm like, no, you're not being considerate. You're not being. And we paused, and I was like, whoa. When you say considerate, what do you mean? Well, I'm thinking for them. I don't want to put them in an awkward position, so I'm not even going to offer them, because they may not want to go. And I'm like, oh, sure, I'm being considerate. Which, this is why I'm offering them, so they have the autonomy to make the decision for themselves. Words really do matter, and the way we just throw them around makes it very easy for people to. Again, if you think about sales, you could say people could be talking two different, the same words, two different definitions of it, and now the customer is not happy with the outcome because they expected a different thing, and or you are working really hard. And you're like, that's not what I wanted. And when you talk about the idea of alignment within a team, oh my goodness gracious, it becomes, like you said, so much easier when people actually understand what the actual words mean that you're using, and you're, again, simplifying it as much as possible. I see you thinking, like, what's on your brain?
That's a loaded question, my man. But yeah, I'm reflecting back on this journey to this point, right? And our CTO is Dennis, and he's one of the most phenomenal tech brains I've ever come in contact with. And he grew up in Ukraine, right? And he's been in the U.S. 10, 15 years. And one of the things he told us was, or told me was, more context, more context, more context, more, like he needs more context. And growing up in the US, you kind of take that for granted. Like, when someone says a slang word or a saying, like whatever, oh, he didn't grow up watching, the Jetsons, right? So he doesn't have that context when we talk about Rosie the robot, right? Or those type of things, right? But I grew up with the Jetsons. I watch it every morning. So context matters just as much. And I've come to the conclusion, or I'm thinking about this in a manner that there has to be enough context for clarity of understanding and the intent of where we're going. We may not know the next 10 steps, right? As a CEO, you kind of look 5, 6, 10 feet in front of you, and you may see things coming around the corner. Well, that doesn't mean the entire team needs to see all 10 steps. They may need to see their step, right? And their responsibility, and then they overlap to each other. So all these, the relationships matter. It's one of the things we talk about all the time as we're selling right now, or we're educating our clients, is who is your customer, right? Because internally we have to ask that a lot. Who are we providing our services to, and where does Aircon's value show up the most? And we used to talk about the quote. Wow, we're a quoting agent, right? It's a quoting agent. It's a quoting agent. I'm like, it's just the output. The quoting is the evidence that we did our job right, right? That's not where our value is. And so cost and value is two very, very different things. And understanding that for myself internally was we're just going to say it was a struggle.
Well, I mean, you think back to the example of was it Henry Ford, the automobile, right? Like, did the customer want the car? No, like if they would have asked him, they probably would have wanted a faster horse or something like that, right? Before the car was invented, give me a faster horse. And so sometimes that is, I feel like, the struggle I consistently hear with CEOs and senior level leaders is that you want to make sure you're providing the value that the customer wants. And there are times when the customer doesn't understand there is something that is more valuable for them. And so how do you educate them? How do you build that bridge?
That bridge, I call it the arc, right? So how do you go from A to C and miss B? The Henry Ford one, I haven't looked at it from that angle before, but I do talk a lot about Henry Ford internally, at least let me say I think about it a lot, because that was a point in time that changed the world, right? To your point, right? Faster horse, right? And then I think about like Steve Jobs on how he changed the world from a tech perspective, from a consumer tech perspective. Not that I'm saying I'm either one of those, because I'm not.
We know you are. That's why you cut your hair off.
That's fair.
You have a turtleneck on, So.
But you learn from people from history, right? We learn from people that changed things, and then why did they change? And both of those people particularly listen to their customer, right? What is the customer saying they want? What is the customer saying they think they need? And then what problem are they actually trying to solve? It's not, are they solving just to reduce labor, right? Or reduce, I call it noise, right? Like, again, the execution side of things creates a lot of tasks that need to be done, right? They're very important for the supply chain. Yeah. Right. Like, hey, the plane got delayed or the flight got canceled or whatnot. Well, how do you got to track that, right? You got to have visibility into that. And then you got to make decisions around that to solve that instant problem. But again, it needs to go further upstream on why did you make that decision in the first place, and then what did you learn by the execution side of it to make a better decision on the front end. And going back to the Henry Ford and Steve Jobs reference, is that's really what we started to do, right? Again, this is why we keep asking, like, who is the customer and where's our value show up? Because if we're using language like quote, we're a quote agent. We get combined with a wholesaler and RMS, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not where we sit. So again, to your point, language matters, right?
This idea of iteration is so interesting to me. I was telling my wife and I talk about this stuff all the time. Probably everyone who does their own business or CEO, they probably talk to their partner a lot, and she's probably tired of it. What's I was telling you, I'm working with a particular client right now, and it's super interesting because the what they've asked me to do is 100% in alignment with what we do, but it's different enough that I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. If we can help them reach this goal for themselves, like this takes us in a completely different direction. Like, it's really cool. And at the same time, I was like, I wouldn't have had the skills, me and my team, if I hadn't done this thing prior to that didn't work. And then this thing prior to that didn't work. And then this thing prior to that didn't work. And I just got better and better each time. And this idea of iteration, where even when you think about your customer, I started off my business, we've been for a little over 15 years now, primarily doing training. And it was very frustrating to me because I was trying to get the customer to understand, like, training's not enough. Like, you go to a training, people they say it's fun, yeah, but then nothing actually changes. Like, what are you measuring on the front end? What are you implementing on the back end? For years, I was like beating my head against the wall until I realized, oh, I'm not approaching the right customer, right? And shifting and understanding that, oh shoot, the value we provide is also not for every customer. There is a specific customer. It's like when you talk about value and alignment and iteration, it just makes me think so much about the journey, I think probably all businesses.
Well, I to your point, I talked to my wife. She talks more to me than I talk to her because I learned so much from her, right? Mm-hmm. So like she's she's not a CEO, but she runs a very large people set, right? She's got 1,000 people under her in terms of an org chart standpoint. And what I found is things echo, right? Like her stage of her career is very, long story short, she stayed home with our kids for 15 years, so she didn't work outside the home. And so, but her stage of the career is very similar of my stage, or what I dealt with as a younger manager or director, if you will. And it's wild to me because it gives me a clearer thought on what I'm dealing with in terms of my responsibilities, right? Like, again, language matters, right? So if someone says X, Y, and Z, oh, I said it that way. Oh, she, again, it just echoes. So it's wild. And you made a point that the iterations on failing. I don't think we talk enough, or at least me, I don't think I talk enough about the learnings of those failures, right? Why did that fail? Why did we not get this right? And it happens in freight too. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, is about how I was talking to a customer that we're working on, and we were in an airport lounge, and we were talking about who's the customer and where does your value show up. And the value of not knowing why you didn't win the business is almost more equal or more important on why you did win the business, right? We had a customer recently that I think they do about 1,000 quotes a month, or their inputs are about 1,000 a month, and we were only responding to about 10%, so roughly 100. The quote that we were actually able to complete was about 100 of them. And going through that on why it's not, what wasn't responding, was a massive unlock for him, because now we know why it's not doing it. Now we can solve that problem, right? And now it's climbing up, and now he's winning more business because the demand is there. Like, freight's not going anywhere. Like, particularly global freight's not growing. It may change from location A to location B or C, but as long as people are around and make it, and want to eat and want to have things, freight's not going anywhere, right? I mean, COVID kind of shows us that, right? Like, you go to the grocery store and like, hey, nothing's on the shelves. Well, someone moved that, right? Freight's not going anywhere. We just got to get better at it. And I think AI, that's one thing I love about AI, is it removes the noise of the why, right? Why did you say this? Why did this happen? Why, all these questions of why becomes elevated, so the judgment of the person doing it can make the call. And then what we do from this is why I love the Aircon, or what we're doing here at Aircon is because we make the routine. So like capacity is not an issue, provider's not an issue. It's inside your scope. The system can respond with that in a couple minutes, right? Like no big deal, 24/7, 365. Now you have time to really look at your business on where does your value show up, because the routine's not the only value, right? And so going through that and failing on trying to pitch and trying to do a podcast, like for example, we had Captain Cargo. When we first had this idea of putting this in the front of the customer, we named it Captain Cargo because we wanted to separate the wholesale business from the tech business. And what we found is that there's some conflict there, right? Because people may not want to work with us because we may be competing against them in the wholesale side of it, right? So we made it strategic. Last December, we made it very strategic to walk away from that business, and obviously transition the customers over that wanted to, and et cetera. But being crystal clear on who we are and who we are not was just as important of the language of the promise or the commitment to the client.
Can I say one last thing? Then we'll take a quick break. I want to get into this other side of the story. Is that I'm gonna let you respond. You mentioned AI and elevating the why question, and what I found. So we run all of our clients, executive coaching clients, through our executive impact system, and it has been a labor of love building this thing over the last year or so. And I'll tell you, it has gotten. I have so much appreciation for coders now, because creating a product that not only works but works at a high quality is not easy. And what I learned through the process is that from an AI standpoint, yes, anyone technically can create something. The level of quality will depend heavily on the people and the expertise they have and the experience, all because the AI is just not going to create this thing for you. Yeah, they'll create it, but it won't be this high quality thing that is tuned into what you and your customers need. But also, man, even though I could create my own, let's just say Zoom or CRM, or like, would it be the best use of my time, right? And so you as a company needs to, yes, leverage AI, but use it for the right things, not trying to build everything, because it also doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think I'm not a coder by any stretch of the imagination, right? And I don't really understand the code, right? Like I don't understand. When someone says AI, my eyes kind of gloss over a little bit, and and again, not to say that I don't understand the power of it, because I understand the power of the tool, right? Dennis said the other day, who's our CTO and our tech founder, said, Chris, it's like a shovel, right? When shovels first were invented, everybody was selling shovels because it was a great unlock for farming or for these things. But over time, the shovel improved and it got cheap, right? Or cheaper, I should say, not cheap. That's a bad word. I'm sorry. But that's how I kind of look at AI as well, right? We're not an AI company. We're a tech company that helps freight forwarders, right? Yeah. And and I believe that's the way of the future of technology is that you really do need that expertise, because there's absolutely no way in my head that you can build a system, and this is and again, not a workflow, but a system that isn't built by people that understand the actual need. Right. Understand why are they making that judgment call? Why are they making, again, it goes back to the why, right? Why are they doing the things? Because that's done at a level in a corporation, not at the desk level, right? The desk level, they're managing tasks, right? And I don't belittle that, because that's extremely important and extremely valuable. But the judgment call to start is where the challenge is, right? Or not the challenge, the opportunity to solve. Because I keep going back to this. I believe that people will, AI will help unlock that, because it is so powerful to do things at once, that you can create things, to your point. Anybody can really, you can talk to it, right? In fact, I was at an AI conference in San Francisco a couple months ago with Schematic, and the OpenAI or whoever they had there on the panel. So yeah, we don't even type anymore. We just talk to it, right? We talk, and which is amazing, because now it's actually learning the intent behind it, right? But that doesn't go across the board, right? That doesn't go across every industry. That doesn't go across every problem statement that you're trying to solve. So as companies start, and I do want to separate this out a little bit, because I do think incentives is a major part of the disconnect, right? Or the gaps in again, supply. I'm in supply chain, or I live in the supply chain world, well, technically the logistics world. But it's really the value chain, right? Where your part in this chain, do you increase or decrease value? And the assets, their value is that they have the asset, right? So the incentive of an airplane is to fill their plane with as much revenue, as much cargo as they possibly can. Obviously, most cargo is moved on passenger aircraft, so their priority is the people, right? A trucker wants to fill their truck. Or as a non-asset provider, what is your value, right? Your value is connecting all these dots and making a commitment to the customer what their expectations is, right? And so I truly believe that's where the real unlock for AI is when you have the expertise, and again, that's not me, right? I have a phenomenal team, right? Kelsey and Earl and CP and Dennis, right? These guys are all awesome, right? And you got to have someone that can communicate and challenge you in a way that is wild. Like our marketing lady is Angela, and she's great. Like she can translate this. When Chris says X, Y, and Z, it means ABC, and she can translate. Hey, is this what you mean? Oh yeah. Well, let's test this on another person to see if it resonates with them. And then reach out to your customers. Like, so she instructs you, goes, Chris, reach out to your contacts, right? Reach out to 15, 20, see what they think and get their feedback.
Yeah.
I did that. I got the response. The freight forwarding world is all about relationships, right? They say that all the time. Oh, it's a relationship business, right? Man, they were awesome. Like they gave me, hey, Chris, well, think about it this way, right? It's you're almost there, but I'm thinking about this way. And so you got the language back from an operator, from a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, to a wholesaler, to an airline, and they all speak slightly different languages, or let me rephrase that. They look at the problem slightly different because they're incentivized differently, right? Yeah. And so I'm just excited about it because I can see it aligning, right? And again, if we align incentives with the actual outcome or the desired outcome, that's a powerful unlock for the industry, because people don't get paid to quote, right? They get paid to move cargo or to manage that promise to their customer, and so that's why I'm excited. I don't mean to get too excited about it because I'm supposed to be professional. But you also see that in businesses, right? So you see this as businesses grow, the incentive for the CEO changes, right? So as a startup, we're building, like we're excited about something we're building. Well, as that grows, right, not just vertically, but horizontally, who the CEO reports to changes, right? Who they're connected to changes. And I just find it just echoes everywhere. Like I see the same pattern. The challenge for me is to make sure I slow down enough to make sure that I'm not outrunning today, right? And the people, and again, that's why I talk about alignment. It's like, okay, I see it, you see it, you see it, you see it, you see the next 3 steps too. Okay, I'm going on to the 5, 6, 7. Well, yeah, but we forgot about this person that wasn't quite there yet. We need the entire team 100% aligned on what we're doing. And once that happens, it's cool. Like, again, learning, it's going to be, every day is a new day and new challenges and new problems to solve. But once everybody's aligned in the direction, it's a massive weight off your shoulders and stress level and all that kind of good stuff to move forward.
Man, I love it. If you're a CEO, owner, president, or COO of a multi-location operations-heavy company, especially in truck, parts, or service, your biggest headaches may sound like this. Communication breaking down between locations and departments, expectations that aren't clear so accountability is shaky, or decisions made in meetings that never really get implemented. I built something specifically for you. It's called the 5 CEO Bottleneck Scorecard. In about 10 minutes, it helps you first see which of the 5 leadership bottlenecks is most likely slowing down your company. Things like unclear expectations, weak follow-through, or a leadership bench that isn't really leading. And next, where to focus over the next 90 days. When you complete it, you'll also get the option for a free one-on-one executive leadership diagnostic call with me to walk you through your results and turn them into a simple behavior-focused 90-day action plan. If you're watching on YouTube, scan the QR code on the screen now. On LinkedIn or Instagram, comment scorecard and we'll DM you the link. On audio, go to gpsleadership.org/scorecard. Again, that's gpsleadership.org/scorecard. All ready? Let's get back to the conversation. So, this is not your first CEO rodeo. CEO rodeo sounds good. Just like Aircon.
It's my third.
And Con Air. Yes. So I'd love to hear what, at least from this most recent to now, what was the big learning for you? Like from your last CEO position now this one.
My biggest learning is I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And again, I keep going back to just going back to the quotes, right? Like, it's like, well, yeah, you quote it. You just go to this RMS and pull this quote. You just go to this platform and get this quote for this, and you just sell, right? Like, that's my commitment. Like, I know the assets. And then going through where the data is, right? Like, where the information of demand comes from, where the real value of a provider versus a forwarder. I never really thought of it that way, right? Like, I never really thought about the value of a wholesaler over a unique provider that they call themselves a freight forwarder, but they're really acting as a wholesaler in that place. And I never really understood the incentives between the different parties, right? Like, I didn't really think of it deeply enough to really understand the relationship between the forwarder, the trucker, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and that, which again echoes as we talk to customers on what they are not winning, right? What they're not quoting on, or what they're not even responding to. What does that mean, right? And don't look at it just as a conversion rate, right? Like, hey, what's your win percentage? That's, to be fair, that's one of the first questions we used to ask, right? Is what is your conversion rate on your quote request? Well, what we found is that they only know what is in their particular system, right? But global trade runs on email, right? Some still do fax, but mostly it's on email, and so it has to go from the email to the system to actually even track it. Well, so if that's not happening, how do you really have a true win rate? And then if your win rate isn't high, why not? Is it just cost? Well, is it transit time? Is, all these different things you can start asking why to your customer and to your buyer, or sorry, to your provider, right? Because it's a two-sided relationship on the actual transaction. It's a two-sided relationship, right? It's one that you have to have clean data, and it can't just be about rates. It has to be more about why. Do you even want to quote this customer, for example, right? Or do I want to do business with this customer? And the logic is, again, what I learned most of that is understanding that relationship and the incentives behind it, and then knowing what I don't know and asking questions about that. And that has been, again, still learning. Still, every day is a new day, a new challenge, new problem. But that's been the biggest unlock for me, is slowing down enough to understand the problem. Where before I was always, well, yeah, you do X, Y, and Z, you go do it, right? And not really thinking about the why behind it. I just knew it was right. It was the right thing to do. Go do it, because that served me well my entire career, right? From forklift driver all the way up to managing, whatever. So not knowing was probably the biggest answer, if I had to ask, or if I had to give a direct answer.
So interesting. Literally, again, I'm talking to my wife way too much about this stuff. Last night, I was talking to my wife about this. There is a CFO of a company I'm coaching right now, and another CEO, and I was, obviously don't get into details. I was like, it's so weird how these are really, really smart people. They would not be where they are, the companies there are, if they were not smart and they do not produce. And I looked and I was like, it's crazy, because most of what I had ended up doing with them is just about slowing down.
Yeah.
Like slowing down enough so they can actually think through problems and be like, oh, well, I've been doing this. Well, has that caused the outcome you're looking for? No. Is there something else you think you might want to do? Well, I guess I could try. Oh, wow. Well, great.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised at just how much slowing down really helps. But man, especially in our current society, the world, the technology, the places we're in, there's such an incentive to move fast. How do you slow yourself down to think?
So I spent a lot of time on my back porch reflecting on the day and what happened during that day. And I look at it from a lens of, what did I do wrong? Right? What was my part in that conflict, right? Or in that decision? And should I or could I have done something different?
Yeah.
To change the outcome, and then own it, right? And like, I had a conversation this morning. I had to apologize, right? Like my tone came across as dictating, if you will, and I had to apologize, and I apologize. I own it, and the challenge with that is as a CEO, that's a ripple effect through the entire organization. So if I've realized that weight of my tone and clarity on what I speak needs to be at a pace that can ripple throughout the entire organization. And that's a work in progress. Don't get me wrong, right? Because that's hard. But like this morning, I got up at 5:11 this morning. I'm on the back porch, just listening, watching. I actually saw a rat go across the thing as I'm dealing with some rats around my house, or whatever they are, mice or whatever. And then just thinking about the day, the yesterday and today, and what could I have done different? And it allows my nervous system to just settle, right?
Yeah.
And the nervous system is a funny thing. Like when I'll tell you a funny story is we got all these plans for speaking events and panel discussions and how we're going to set up podcasts, or what we're going to do, all that kind of good stuff. And we started off at this conference in Shenzhen, China. And I thought it was, I've heard of them, but I didn't really do a lot of research on their size, et cetera, et cetera. And I get there and it's massive. Like it's 2,000 people. And I'm like, I speak in front of people. I was a tour guide at Crystal Cave Taverns as a child. I can handle this, right? I'm passionate about what this is. All of a sudden I'm up there speaking, right? And you got the monitor in front of you, and my body was doing some things that I'm like, what's going on? But this isn't right. I can't move my leg, right? But what that teaches that, like, Chris, you're going too fast, right? Like you're trying to communicate something that's not quite there yet, right? So lesson learned, right? Slow down, make sure that the room understands what you're trying to say, and it starts internally, right? You have to have the team has to see they can't just be in the same direction. They have to see or agree. We all have to agree that this is what our value we're creating, and this is your role in that. That doesn't mean you stay only in your role, but this means that we all have a role to play, and we all have to help each other, but not fill the other person's gaps, right? Like we got to own it and be responsible for us, and that starts with me, right? That's probably been the biggest kind of didn't know what I didn't know, right? That's probably been the biggest challenge and biggest reward is when that starts to come into alignment.
Okay, I know I want to open the floor for you. Any thoughts you have as we start to wrap up? But one of the comments you just made. It is. I am extremely bullish on this idea of extreme ownership. There's a book called Extreme Ownership. I've never actually read it, but I love the title.
It's a good book.
Okay. One of my best friends read it. He was like, Alex, you already do all this. You don't need to. But the idea is like, to your point, taking ownership of everything. And like, what was my role? I know I could have done something better. Oh, I was late to that meeting. Well, it was because of traffic. Well, you know what? I could have left early. You know what? Maybe I should just build in, like, I should always just arrive to my meeting 30 minutes early, just in case something happens, right? Like that's extreme ownership piece. And man, I consistently have conversations with people who have, there's a quote, the worst type of excuse? A good excuse. It makes you feel like, yeah, it's okay. It's not, that's the reason why.
Yeah, that's right. Like, that's right.
Dude, it's man, taking that ownership, I think, is so powerful. It gives you so much, I think, autonomy. It gives you leverage over your life. And my question is always, what's the other side? If you're not willing to take ownership for it and to say, like, I'm going to own whatever I can, then you are literally saying, I'm going to allow my life to be at the whim of everyone else. And woe is me, I guess. But
yeah, no,
so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was talking yesterday. I was on a podcast yesterday, and she just like everybody asked, tell me your story, right? And my mom was in the late 70s, early 80s, was a first female executive at a Fortune 100 company. And that's actually that's why we moved from Wisconsin to Seattle. But I always refer to myself as a farm boy from Wisconsin, because that's really where I learned that title and responsibility are not connected, right? On the farm, the cows still needed to be milked, right? Yeah. The chores still needed to be done. And it didn't matter if you were, my grandpa who ran the farm, or my uncle that was going to take over the farm, or his kids that was going to precede him, right? They all had roles, right? And they all had relationships to those things. And the ownership is kind of funny because I am a Packer fan, right? So Packer owner. And the logic of Lombardi was, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. And I've always lived that life. And my wife is the same way, right? Like, we're not 10, 15 minutes early, we're late. Yeah. But different cultures have different ideas of what that means. And then how do you measure it, right? Like, how do you measure ownership in today's world? Is kind of funny, because we measure things based on what we know, right? Like, what is the outcome of cash, right? Like, what does the P&L say, right? And so everything is measured to a number, but it's not really about the number, because cost and value are not the same thing. And I think what I want Aircon to be is to continue to increase our value that our customers are willing to pay for. And again, not knowing what I don't know, that I believe as companies grow, that's harder and harder to do, right? It's much harder when you're especially a Fortune 500 that has a board that's publicly owned. Yeah. They report to somebody, right? And they're measuring a number. And so that's my daily challenge is making sure that we continue to increase our value, that our customers will continue to pay for.
Oh, Chris, again, you're freaking awesome, dude. Everything from us wearing matching blazers with t-shirts to I will say, every time you mention you are on the porch thinking, I imagine you on the porch in a rocking chair with a dog next to you, sitting out looking into like the cornfield with a sunset. I don't know why. It's just like
Oh,
when you say I'm a country boy, I
you're pretty
imagine
close.
this.
You are pretty close. I have 3 dogs and I live on a golf course. So,
So it's not
but
corn.
other than that, you had it right.
That sounds beautiful, man. Is there anything you want to share with the audience as we wrap up?
Just, if this is appealing to you, if you think this is a challenge that or resonates with you, that you think we have a conversation, you can obviously find me on LinkedIn, Chris Condon. We're on YouTube. We got a website at aircon.ai. But would love to interact and at least learn from you if this is resonating with you.
Man, again, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your story, sharing your words of wisdom, and honestly, just being a really great person. And specifically, this communicating this idea of the promise and the idea of consistently looking for the value for your customer. I think those two things most people would say are critical, but I think that most people in the day to day can forget about those two things. It's about getting the task done versus fulfilling and understanding and fulfilling the promise and consistently looking for the value. So again, thank you so much for bringing those two up. I thank you. I know this is not going to be the last time you and I talk. So as always, I encourage everyone to stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay. Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal. If you're a CEO, owner, president, or COO of a multi-location, operations-heavy company, and you heard your own challenges in this conversation, strong team on paper, but projects still move slower than they should, and too many decisions land back on your plate, that's exactly what we fix at GPS Leadership Solutions. We run a 14-day executive leadership diagnostic to show you how your key leaders and stakeholders actually experience your leadership, then build a simple 90-day plan to remove those bottlenecks and speed up decisions. To learn more or see if it's a fit for you and your organization, visit gpsleadership.org/360. That's gpsleadership.org/360. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with another leader who needs it. I'm Alex D. Tremble. Thank you for joining us on The Executive Appeal. I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.